Script: On the morning of May 15, 2023, Jane Holloway, a 32-year-old nurse from Maplewood, disappeared without a trace. Jane was a dedicated professional, renowned for her compassion and commitment at the local hospital. Colleagues often described her as someone who went above and beyond for her patients. She was not just a nurse, she was a beacon of hope for many. That evening, after a typical day of work, she left the hospital around 7 p.m. The last sighting of her came from the surveillance footage showing her entering her vehicle in the parking lot. After that, she vanished. The following day, Jane's family grew concerned when she failed to return home. Her sister, Lily, called her phone multiple times, but there was no answer. Panic set in as hours turned into a day. Jane's family reported her missing on May 16th, and the police immediately launched an extensive search. The community rallied together to help, posting flyers and organizing search parties. Jane's disappearance struck a chord, igniting concern in the town where she had touched so many lives. Authorities quickly began conducting interviews with co-workers, friends, and family. Everyone painted a picture of Jane as a nurturing individual, one who was well-liked and respected. They reported no signs of distress or turmoil in her life. There were no known enemies, and Jane had no history of mental health issues. This made the investigation even more perplexing. What could have happened to her? As the investigation progressed, several leads surfaced. Eyewitness accounts noted a dark sedan parked near the hospital around the time of Jane's disappearance. Investigators were diligent in tracking down the vehicle's owner, leading them to an individual with a solid alibi. He was at a family gathering miles away from the scene at the time Jane went missing. This only fueled the mystery surrounding her case. The police examined Jane's phone records next, searching for clues in her last communications. They discovered that shortly before her disappearance, she had made several calls. One call stood out. It was to a former colleague named Mike, who had left the hospital about a year earlier. Mike claimed that the two were discussing a potential reunion among old friends. However, when investigators looked into Mike's background, they uncovered a troubling detail.
He had a criminal record related to theft. This raised alarms, and authorities decided to interview him further. Mike maintained his innocence during the questioning. He insisted that his intentions were purely platonic and that he had nothing to do with Jane's disappearance. However, investigators remained skeptical and continued to dig deeper. They also examined Jane's interactions with other colleagues, hoping to uncover more information about her state of mind in the days leading up to her vanishing. Meanwhile, Jane's family shared more about her life. Lily, her younger sister, spoke fondly of their close bond. During one of the family's media appeals for information, Lily mentioned that Jane had seemed worried about something in the weeks before her disappearance. When pressed, she hesitated to elaborate on what it was. This cryptic detail added another layer of mystery. What troubled Jane in her final days? As weeks turned into months with no substantial leads, the case grew cold. Jane's disappearance captured the community's attention and concern. Posters bearing her face filled the streets, and vigils were held, with community members gathering to pray for her safe return. The emotional toll on her family was devastating. Day after day, they held on to the hope that Jane would be found, yet the lack of answers weighed heavily on their hearts. In July, a breakthrough occurred. A fisherman exploring a remote area of the woods approximately 5 miles from the hospital stumbled upon a purse. Inside were Jane's identification and a small amount of cash. The discovery sent shockwaves throughout the investigation. Detectives quickly returned to the scene, conducting searches of the surrounding area, but no further evidence was found. The purse raised more questions than answers. How did it end up there? Was it discarded or left behind in haste? The investigation was reignited with this new piece of evidence. Detectives combed through old tips and witness statements once more. They were determined to explore every lead. During this renewed effort, they discovered a witness who claimed to have heard a loud argument near Jane's car that evening. This was the first mention of any conflict concerning Jane. When police interviewed this witness, however, they became visibly nervous and recanted their statement.
The rationale behind their sudden fear raised more red flags for investigators. As the investigation continued, the investigators pursued several theories. Some speculated that Jane had been the victim of a crime, while others thought she may have chosen to leave her life behind. However, there was no concrete evidence supporting either theory. Jane's family firmly believed that she would never leave them voluntarily. They knew her well. She was devoted to her family and her work. The timeline of events was also scrutinized, with authorities attempting to piece together Jane's final movements. Witnesses were re-interviewed, and fresh eyes examined the surveillance footage surrounding the hospital. Despite their efforts, the answers still eluded them. What transpired during those final moments of Jane's life? Why did her phone records show a call to Mike? Was there more to their past that had not yet been uncovered? The emotional toll of Jane's disappearance weighed heavily on her family. Lily, in particular, emerged as a vocal advocate for her sister. She spoke passionately in interviews, urging anyone with information to come forward. Despite the heartache, Lily's resolve remained strong. She organized community events with the hopes of keeping Jane's case in the public eye, believing that someone must know something. This determination galvanized the community, but still, the case faced an unsettling silence. Months turned into years, yet Jane's case remained open, a haunting mystery that left many questions unanswered. The community never forgot Jane Holloway. Her story continued to resonate, becoming a symbol of loss and hope in the fight against the unknown. Vigil events were still held annually, bringing together residents who lit candles in Jane's memory. They shared stories and expressed their commitment to finding her. Investigators remained dedicated to solving the case, piecing together every clue, looking for new leads. They published updates, hoping to reignite interest in the investigation. Every so often, someone would come forward with a tip, only to lead to another dead end. The frustration was palpable. Each false lead chipped away at the hope that Jane could still be found. Jane Holloway's disappearance was not just a case. It was a tragedy that impacted an entire community. Loved ones were left trying to navigate a life without her. As the months turned into years, Jane's family continued to seek answers, holding on to the hope that one day they would find closure. The case remains open. Investigators continue to piece together the clues, hoping for a breakthrough that may finally reveal the truth behind Jane's disappearance. In the absence of new leads, her fate hangs in the balance, a haunting reminder of how quickly life can change. What really happened to Jane Holloway on that fateful May evening? With numerous questions lingering, her family and the community continue to search for answers. Will the truth ever come to light? Or will Jane's story remain one of the many unsolved mysteries that haunt our society today?